They said my father died. They sent a brief message, no funeral, no obituary. No one called me. Then they put the beach house up for sale, the place holding all my childhood memories without even asking me. They thought I wouldn't find out. They thought I'd stay silent as I had for the past 10 years, excluded from family calls, photos, and group chats. But they forgot one thing: I'm still here. And this time I'm not standing on the sidelines. I discovered the house was transferred to a shell company. I traced everything. And thanks to an old clause in my father's will, I reclaimed ownership legally, quietly. 2 days before the family reunion, I returned to that house. I booked the place under my name. I hung the wind chimes again, wiped the dust off the memories, and waited for them to arrive. And then they walked in thinking they were still in charge, until the staff asked, "What's your relation to Miss Anderson, the current owner?" I stepped out from the hallway. No hatred. No words wasted. Just present. Because that's what they once tried to take from me. Guess what happened next? I knew my name wasn't in that email before I even opened it. And I opened it anyway. Tuesday, 8:47 a.m. I'm sitting by the large glass window of my office on the 23rd floor in Soma, the heart of San Francisco. Below, cars flow like a busy stream of water. On my screen is an email marked important. Subject: Anderson Family Retreat 2025. RSVP by Friday. It sounds warm, urgent, full of implied care. I click to open it, and just as I suspected, no me. No Ellie. No Elizabeth. Not even the nickname Elle that my father loved most. My sister Madeline there. Her husband, their 2 kids there. My mother, Margaret Anderson, of course. Uncle Jerry, Aunt Denise from Charleston. Even relatives I've met exactly 3 times in my life. Me not there. At first you might think it's just an oversight. But after 10 years in a row, after being forgotten in group chats, Christmas Zoom calls, and publicly posted photos where I'm never present, this isn't forgetting. This is erasure. My name is Ellie Anderson. I'm 36, living alone in a 2-bedroom apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows in San Francisco. I'm a financial strategist for a tech company. The job's fine. The pay's good. My home is filled with books, plenty of light, and a fridge stocked with white wine. But one thing's missing: family. Or rather, I have family, but they've disowned me. Slowly, silently, through endless stretches of quiet. At first, I didn't notice. I still called on holidays, sent birthday cards to my nephews, contributed to fixing the old roof in South Carolina when my mother complained about the budget. But gradually I became like a shadow behind glass, present, but unnoticed. 1 year I made it back in time for my father's stroke. I was the only one there for the first 3 nights, reading of Mice and Men to him when he couldn't speak. I fed him porridge, wiped his forehead, and when he recovered enough to talk, he said, "Elle, you're here." But the next week my mother said, "Your father needs peace. Don't come back." I didn't argue. I stepped back, and they slowly closed the door. Not with words of rejection, but with silence. I take a sip of cold coffee, then open a new tab. Anderson Family Beach House, South Carolina rental, I type. The beach house in Beaufort, where I grew up every summer, appears in the search results. I click on the images. The white porch, slanted roof, wooden swing still tilting to one side. Everything looks the same. But the listing isn't for rent. For sale. Price reduced. Motivated seller. I blink. My heart skips a beat. I check the posting date 13 days ago. No one said anything. No texts. No family group chat. No one asked for my input. The broker's name is a woman who once sold my grandmother's farm. I recognize her immediately. Everything feels decided. They're selling my father's house, the place where I have my fondest memories, and the last place he laughed freely before the death I was told about via a single text. Part of me wants to shut the laptop. Ignore it. Let them carry on with their know-me life they've chosen. But then I glance at the bookshelf where an emerald green seashell sits. A gift from my father when I was 9. He said, "You've got to think like the tide, Elle. Don't let anyone make you smaller." I've lived too long as someone diminished. But today, something shifts. Maybe it's that email, the one without my name. Because if I hadn't opened it, I wouldn't have known they were selling my memories. And if I hadn't searched, I'd never have uncovered a harsher truth. My father, the one they said was gone, is still alive. But I'll tell you about that later, because it all starts here with an email that was never meant for me. And I'm not going to let it be the last thing they don't send. They say real estate is a dead asset. But the beach house in Beaufort, South Carolina to me has always been a living thing. It breathes in the sea breeze, smiles through the creak of its old swing, and holds memories in every crack of its wooden steps. I stare at the laptop screen. The house appears faded tin roof, blue shutters, and a lopsided lantern. Below it, unmistakable text. For sale, price reduced, motivated seller. It feels like someone sold a piece of me. The house isn't a mansion. It's small, simple, but it's where my father taught me to peel shrimp, prop my feet on the railing, to watch sunsets and read passages from the Grapes of Wrath with his warm, sometimes wry voice. I still remember the first time he took me there. I was 9 pigtails oversized t-shirt. We walked to the beach and he picked up a blue seashell, placing it in my hand. You've got to think like the tide, Ellie. Not waves. Waves crash and break. But the tide, it comes back quiet, unstoppable. I didn't fully understand then. Now I understand too well. And maybe that's why this time I don't cry. I don't slam the desk. I don't call to confront. I just open another tab and dig deeper into the listing. I notice a small detail, something others might overlook, but not me. The house is no longer under the Anderson name. The current owner is an LLC called Palmetto Heritage Holdings. I exhale slowly. This is a familiar trick in finance. Putting property in an LLC simplifies transfers, avoids taxes, and sometimes hides the real owner. I have a hunch, and I know only one person in the family savvy and bold enough to pull this off. Madeline. I save the entire webpage. Then I call Savannah. Savannah and I went to high school together. She's not a close friend, but the only one from back then who stays in touch without asking for anything. After law school, she became a paralegal at a small firm in Charleston, specializing in inheritance and property disputes. Give me the company name, she says, no need for much explanation. I send the link and details. 10 minutes later, she calls back, her voice lower. They transferred ownership to the LLC after your dad died. But, Ellie, I checked the records. There's no death certificate registered for Thomas Anderson. I freeze. What do you mean? I mean, if he'd actually passed, there'd be public records, but there's no legal evidence he's not alive. I stay silent for a long time. My mind spins. They told me my father died in his sleep 3 years ago. No public funeral, no obituary. They said it was what he wanted, simple, private. I foolishly believed them. Savannah continues, her voice slower, softer. Do you want to know for sure? I nod, then realize she can't see. Yes, do it. While she digs further, I look back at the house's photos. Part of me hopes this is a misunderstanding, that Madeline has a valid reason, that my mother doesn't know, that someone will call in the next few minutes and say, Ellie, we need to talk. No one calls. When Savannah gets back on the line, her voice is like someone holding an unpinned grenade. There's a medical record. He didn't pass. He's at Willow Haven, a private upscale care facility. They don't list residents' names, but I know someone in medical records, and I'm certain. I don't remember how I hung up, or how I got home, only that it was dark, and my hand was gripping the old seashell until my knuckles were white. They said he was dead, but they just hid him. I don't know why, but I know one thing: I won't let them sell that house like it's some surplus junk from a storage unit. It's not just property, it's a witness. Proof I was there, was loved, was part of what they called family. I print out all the property documents. Find the scanned copy of the will my father gave me when he was still lucid. There's a fallback clause if ownership is transferred illegally. If taxes and insurance lapse for over 24 months, the secondary beneficiary gets priority me. I know what to do next. This time I don't ask for permission. I don't wait for approval. I'm going back to Beaufort. I'm going to find my father. And I'm taking back what should never have been sold. I've never been the type to strike first. Not out of fear, but because I believed silence was sometimes the strongest weapon. It makes others think you've surrendered, that you no longer care, that you've left the game. But silence isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the prelude to a comeback. And I'm ready. That night I sit in front of my laptop, the blue light from the window reflecting on the ceiling like an artificial sky. On the screen is a copy of the will my father gave me after his first hospital stay. I ascendancy. I don't leave much, he'd said, but I don't want things to get messy when I'm gone. You've got the clearest head in the family L. You keep a copy. I kept it. Sometimes buried so deep I forgot it existed. But it's there in a folder labeled personal. Do not delete. I scroll through the clauses, my eyes stopping on a small one tucked between 2 larger ones, as if the writer didn't want it to stand out. In the event of delinquency due to lapse in tax payment insurance coverage, or failure to maintain legal obligations related to property, ex-coastal residents Beaufort Beneficiary B shall be entitled to full reassignment of ownership without contest. Beneficiary B me. This isn't a loophole. It's a trap set by a father who knew his family wasn't great at keeping promises. And he left a door open just in case they let things fall apart. And they did. I call Savannah back, my voice no longer trembling. I need to know for sure, did they miss tax or insurance deadlines? She sends me 2 emails and a scanned invoice unpaid property taxes for 3 consecutive quarters lapsed insurance for a year. I almost can't believe it. Not because it's hard, but because it's so absurdly easy. My family, with all their pride and moral standing, let a $500,000 property slip because they were too lazy to renew paperwork. If you want, Savannah says this transfer is legally airtight. I pause for a beat. No heads up, no notice, do it. 2 days later, I get a confirmation email from the notary the transfer is processed. The new legal owner of the Beaufort house, Ellie Anderson. I don't laugh. I don't cry. I just sit up straighter, feeling like a spine has been rebuilt. That night, I open my to-do list. Verify fallback clause, confirm tax and insurance records, file transfer application, book the house, meet dad. The house is mine, on paper. But in reality, it's not truly mine until I see it with my own eyes and see him. But first I need to prepare. I open the booking portal, the one Madeline uses to organize reunions like they're her personal festival. This time I use it to do the opposite. I book 3 nights for the upcoming weekend, name Miss E. Anderson. Room type master suite. Special requests Perrier Jouet champagne chilled in the fridge. 100% cotton pillowcases, do not disturb, prioritize privacy. I know they'll come because the reunion email went out. And they'll walk into the house as usual. Only this time they're the ones uninvited. I picture my mother Margaret walking in and being asked by the receptionist, "Are you with Miss Anderson, the current owner?" I'm not looking for satisfaction. I don't need their shock. I just want one thing to be present. Undeniably. Because when you've been cut out of a picture too long, you don't need to squeeze back in. You just take the frame and redraw it from scratch. I don't tell Madeline. I don't text my mother. I don't post online. I let them walk into this story without a script, quietly, but not invisibly. That night, standing by the window overlooking the glowing city, I hold the seashell. Still intact. Small cracks from years, but never broken. Like me. If someone ever told you you're not important enough to be remembered, know this: your worth isn't in others calling your name. It's in daring to write your name on this life. When I book the flight to Beaufort, I know I'm not just returning to a place. I'm returning to claim a voice. A presence. A truth. Some truths aren't hidden by lies. They're hidden by silence so long, it makes you doubt your own memory. I once believed my father was dead. Not because I saw his body, attended his funeral, or received a death certificate. I believed because they said so, my mother, my sister, the family, I thought was mine. He passed in his sleep, my mother said, her voice so calm, I felt ashamed for wanting to ask more. I didn't ask. And maybe the biggest mistake of my life was trusting I didn't need to verify it. Until Savannah, my old friend, now my most trusted ally, sent me a short, untitled, unembellished note. 3 lines. Thomas Anderson, Willow Haven Care Facility, Beaufort County. I read it over and over as if I could peel back the words and find an error. But there was no error. Just a cold, quiet, crueler truth than any lie I'd ever heard. My father never died. Savannah called right after. I know you're in shock, Ellie. But listen. She explained that while searching property records, she found no death certificate. No closed medical file. That led her to dig backward, and his name appeared on the resident list at Willow Haven, a private high-end care facility in Low Country. I called to check, she said. They confirmed Thomas Anderson is still there. Health status, stable, according to the nurse. Stable. A simple word, but for someone I thought left this world 3 years ago, it's heavy as stone. I drive from Savannah, Georgia to Beaufort in silence. Past salt marshes, trembling pines along the highway. In my mind, memories of my father flicker his hoarse laugh at a terrible TV comedy. His grimace while peeling an apple still giving me the best part. I let someone bury those memories in a death that never happened. Willow Haven sits at the end of a private road shaded by old oaks. Slate roof brick courtyard lavender and antiseptic mingling in the air. Not a place to die. A place to disappear. I sign in at the front desk, keeping my voice as low as possible. Ellie Anderson. Here to visit Thomas Anderson. The pixie-haired receptionist taps a few keys. Nods. Room 204. West Garden Wing. He's reading. Reading. 3 simple words. But they pull me out of a long daydream. My father's alive. And he's reading. I walk down the wood-paneled hallway, each step echoing the past. Days I thought were lost forever. And then I see him. Sitting in a wicker chair in a small garden, he's wearing a faded green sweater, holding Cannery Row. His eyes are still bright, though lined with crow's feet. A few silver hairs fall across his forehead. Not the towering man I once hid behind, but still my father. I stand a few steps away. I don't dare call out. I don't know how to begin. But he looks up first, and his gaze meets mine like I've stepped out of a dream he's had 100 times. Ill. One word. I nod, tears welling but not falling. I don't want to worry him. He sets the book down, hands trembling. El, you're here. I step forward, taking his wrinkled hand. The same hand that taught me how to hold a knife safely, that guided me through my first waves on the beach. I thought you were gone, I whisper. He smiles sadly. I thought you forgot me. We sit together all afternoon. I don't ask why they hid me. He doesn't ask why I didn't come sooner. We just talk about what was that summer, the fishing trip, where we nearly capsized Grandma's sweet cornbread. As if 3 years weren't stolen. I ask, did you miss me? He looks at me for a long time, then says I wrote letters. Called. They said you were busy, didn't want to hear from me. Then, no one said anything. I don't need to ask who they are. I know. My mother Margaret, who believed in silence more than truth, and Madeline, my sister, who could justify any lie if it kept the family picture pretty enough to display. But I didn't come to expose anyone. I came to see what matters most. My father's still here, and he still remembers me. Before I leave, he presses a small object wrapped in a handkerchief into my hand. I open it, a piece of seashell threaded with faded green string. You made this when you were 9, he says. Hung it in the window. I kept it. Because you make things last. I can't speak. I just nod. As I head to the car, the sea breeze brushes my shoulder. I glance at the low building, its windows reflecting the dusk. I have my father back. I have the house. But the hardest part is still ahead, facing them. Because one person can hide the truth. But the truth can't be hidden forever. I used to think heartfelt reunions only happened in movies, with background music, soft golden light, and tears falling right on cue. But that afternoon in Willow Haven's West Garden, there was no soundtrack. Just birds, a hint of lavender, and the man I thought I'd lost forever, looking at me with eyes that never stopped waiting. You're here, he says, his voice trembling like wind chimes. I can't answer right away. My throat catches. All the questions, anger and pain crash like a wave, but I know if I speak now, I'll break. And I didn't come to break. I came to listen. I sit beside him on a weathered wooden chair facing a bed of heather. My father places his thin hand on my knee, as if to confirm I'm real. They said you didn't want to see me anymore, he whispers. That you were busy, had a new life. I grip his hand. That's not true. I didn't know you were... here. I know, he breathes. I knew you didn't leave. But they didn't believe it. I take a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. Did you try to reach me? He nods. I wrote, called. At first they said you were traveling, then moved. After that, no one said anything. I look into his eyes, still bright as I remember, though now tinged red with age. Did you know Mom told me you were gone? He's silent for a long time, staring at the distant sky, where oak branches sway quietly. I suspected. But hearing it from you, it still hurts. I don't know how many tears I swallowed during that talk. Something sharp lodged in my throat. But I didn't cry. I didn't want him to see his daughter crumble under something he's endured for 3 years. Maybe the most heartbreaking thing isn't being lied to. It's realizing the person you trusted most was lied to, just like you. I got the house back, I say after a pause. He turns surprised. The Beaufort house. I nod. Madeline transferred it to a shell company, but they missed taxes insurance. There's a fallback clause in the will. You remember? He smiles faintly as if it takes more effort than he has. I remember. I wrote it for you. In case they got careless. Or intentional, I say softly. He doesn't respond. He doesn't need to. I tell him about Savannah, how I found the house listed for sale, how I signed papers without the family knowing. He doesn't object. Doesn't ask why. He just nods, eyes distant, as if seeing the day he wrote that will, when he still trusted at least one daughter wouldn't let things be sold cheap. I didn't do it for revenge, I say. I just didn't want to be erased from a place that was part of me. You were never erased, he says. They just forgot how to read your name right. I laugh, light-tired but real. For the first time in ages, I laugh because someone understands. We sit until late afternoon. The sun fades, casting long shadows on the stone path. A nurse appears, gently noting it's dinner time. I stand, hesitating. "I'll be back," I say. "Next time. I won't come alone." "Who are you bringing?" he asks, looking up with eyes half curious, half knowing. I smile. Family. Not the ones who lied to him or to me, but the ones who need to hear this story, whether they want to or not. I don't know if my father will ever forgive what happened, but I know he doesn't want to carry bitterness to his end. Neither do I. Driving back, I think about all the things left unsaid in 3 years, in 30 years. Letters never delivered calls, cut short words replaced by deliberate silence. And I wonder, who does silence protect? Or does it just turn those who deserve to know into strangers in their own lives? That night, I reopen the Anderson family retreat guest list. I'm not on it, but soon I'll make my own list. Not to retaliate, but to remind them I'm still here. Not as an afterthought, but as someone who never left. Some returns don't need fanfare or announcements. They just need a steady step and an undeniable reason. I return to Beaufort, not as a guest. Not as the forgotten youngest daughter left off lists cropped from photos and turned into a shadow at family gatherings. I return as the legal owner of the house they thought they'd quietly erased me from. The morning flight lands in Charleston through thin clouds. I rent a silver gray car, not flashy, not too noticeable. Like me, quiet, but just enough to not be overlooked again. Driving down the road to the old house, my heart doesn't boil. No hate, no bitterness. Just the feeling of returning to a place I belonged to and was never allowed to say goodbye to. The beach house appears past a row of poplars, still silver-white swing, still tilted waiting as always. It's not grand, but it's my entire childhood. I park open the trunk and pull out the freshly signed transfer contract. My name, Ellie Anderson, is clear on every page with the notary's red seal. I fold it not out of doubt, but as a reminder I'm not dreaming. I step onto the porch. Each creak of the wooden floor whispers old memories. Here's where Dad shelled sunflower seeds, where Madeline cried over a lost phone, where Mom set up her Sunday prayer table. I unlock the door with the new key. For the first time, I don't need to ask anyone to let me in, don't need to call ahead. I'm the first to enter. Inside, most of the old furniture remains: floral armchairs, scratched wooden table, a slightly tilted seascape painting. I walk around, touching things lightly, as if afraid to break the past. Then I open the second suitcase. Old photos, wooden frames, a ceramic vase, and the seashell wind chime my father kept. I find the kitchen window where it used to sway in the sea breeze. I hang it back, tightening the green thread. Some shells are chipped, faded, but the chime still rings. Still light. Still pure. I open the window, letting the sea breeze rush in, carrying salt and something close to peace. I spend the afternoon cleaning, not to impress anyone, but to reconnect with myself. I pull out a frame. One photo is of my father holding a book, sitting on the porch wind, tossing his hair. I took it at 17 after he finished Travels with Charlie. I hang it at the entrance. Center stage. No one can walk in without seeing him. That night, I book the house officially through the system Madeline used to manage reunions like a corporate event. Check-in Friday. Guest Miss E. Anderson. Special requests: 1 bottle of Perrier Jouet on ice cotton linens and absolute privacy. When the confirmation email arrives, I glance at it, then delete it. I don't need digital proof for what my heart's already confirmed. This house at last belongs to someone who was once erased from it. I sit on the living room floor back against the wall, looking through the window glimmering with moonlight. I don't feel triumphant. I don't want apologies. I just want one thing to be present, not as an intruder, but as someone invited, someone who belonged and never stopped being part of it. I think of my father. The next time I'll bring him here to see the wind chime, still hanging his photo in its rightful place. And then I think of the harder part, inviting those who forgot me back. Not to confront, but to make them face what they tried to ignore. I won't send an email. I'll send letters, handwritten, because what needs to be remembered shouldn't end up in a spam folder. I arrive earlier than them, not to welcome, not to spy on reactions. I come because I want this house once ours to feel the presence of someone who truly cares. I step inside with a soft creak of the door, the old scratch on the frame still there. The smell of damp wood and sea salt lingers, as if time hasn't moved. The living room holds its old shape, moss-green chairs, a coffee table with a cigarette burn from Uncle Jerry's drunken night, a wall clock still running 3 minutes slow for a decade. I check each room. My father's photo, now at the entrance, is the first gaze to meet anyone who enters. The wind chime I hung sways in the morning breeze. The champagne in the fridge is chilled just right, fizzing softly when I check. I don't bring a suitcase, just a small bag with the house contract, my ID, and a stack of letters. I don't know when they'll arrive, but I know they will. They've never missed an Anderson family retreat, at least when it's just them not counting me. I sit by the window overlooking the main road. An hour passes, then 2. The sunlight shifts from gold to dull white, and then at 2:37 p.m., a sleek white Audi pulls into the driveway. Madeline. Her husband gets out first, yanking open the trunk, pulling out 2 mid-sized suitcases. Their 2 boys jump out, fighting over a phone. Madeline steps out, last oversized sunglasses, hair in a high bun, the posture of someone expecting a welcome. Right after Uncle Jerry's SUV rolls in, then another car. I hear chatter, the squeak of suitcase wheels on gravel. Laughter. No one knows. No one suspects. They walk into the small reception area, where I'd given clear instructions. The pixie-haired receptionist, barely 20, looks up from her screen with a polite smile. "Sorry, I don't see your names on the guest list," she says. "Is there a mistake?" Madeline asks, voice sweet but sharp. "This is the Anderson family retreat. I've organized it every year. It can't be wrong." The girl glances at her screen. The booking lists only one guest, Miss E. Anderson. She reserved the entire property. Silence. A pause long enough for the initial politeness to crack. "Let me confirm," the receptionist continues. "Are you part of Miss Anderson's group?" I step out from the hallway, no need to speak. My shoes click clearly on the wood floor. The small room suddenly feels airless. Madeline turns. Our eyes meet. No hate, no embarrassment. Just disbelief mixed with shock. "Ellie." I nod. "Yes, I'm Miss Anderson." I turn to the receptionist, hand over my ID, and say evenly, "I'm the legal owner of this house. The contract is notarized and updated in the system." She nods in confirmation. Madeline freezes. My mother walks in then from the courtyard. She's in a white linen outfit, her pearl necklace still gleaming as always. When she sees me, she stops. "You," she says, then falls silent. I don't raise an eyebrow, don't smile, don't accuse. "Sorry," I say, still looking at the receptionist. "Those not on the guest list can't stay." For a second, I see my mother's hand tremble. Madeline nearby grips her bag strap until her knuckles whiten. No one speaks. "But this is the family house," a relative says. I turn, eyes steady. "It is. And I'm family. I never left. You just chose not to see me." No shouting, no excuses. Just silence, thick and heavy like smoke from a forgotten kitchen fire. I walk past them slowly. No bowing, no asking permission. I don't need to. This is my house. Madeline says nothing. My mother adjusts her jacket, looking down. Uncle Jerry turns away, pretending to look at the yard. The group shuffles out, dragging unopened suitcases. I don't watch them go. I step to the porch, open the door, let the breeze in. I don't feel relieved, not joyful, but a hollow space in my chest where hurt once lived is quieter now. I know they'll talk, call each other late to figure out what happened. Maybe they'll say I ambushed or stole. I don't need to argue. I just need to keep showing up. Because sometimes simply being present, calm and steady is the deepest response. The first message comes at 7:03 a.m. "Ellie, you okay?" from an old Manhattan colleague. Before I can reply, the phone rings. Then an email, a voicemail, all asking in different words, "Is this real?" I don't know what's happening until I turn on the TV. A morning news show runs a bold ticker daughter accused of exploiting legal loophole to seize elderly father's home. The image is the beach house's facade, my father's mine, wrapped in a news anchor's flat, accusatory tone. I don't cry, don't scream, don't rage. I just go still, like an invisible hand has pushed me to the bottom of the loneliness I've long covered with silence. The report cites a close family member, no need to guess it's Madeline, maybe Mom too. The anchor's voice is as cold as any news. A relative claims her father, Thomas Anderson, was manipulated during cognitive decline. No proof, no names. But each word cuts into the last trust I held for them. I don't react publicly. No correction posts, no tell-all online. I don't need to. I open my laptop. Send a short email to Laurel Chase, an American legacy investigative reporter I trust, known for covering inheritance disputes and elder abuse. One sentence. "Here's the full story unedited. It's your call to share." I attach 3 files. First, screenshots of old texts between my mother and Madeline casually discussing keeping Ellie out to avoid trouble. Second, a recording Madeline's voice on a call she won't fit in. Always acts like it's about her. Let her live alone. It's easier. And finally, most importantly, a video from my first Willow Haven visit, my father in the garden looking at the camera, saying slowly, "That house. I want Ellie to have it. Madeline's good at setting a mood. But Ellie, she keeps the spirit. She makes small things last." I recorded it on my phone, hands shaking but steady. I never meant it as evidence. Just something to hold in case someone asked, what did he want for his youngest daughter? I send the email and shut down. Tell no one. 3 days later, the news story is quietly removed from the site. No apology, just a small update. Some details in the prior report were not fully verified. It fades as quickly as it came, but I don't feel relieved. Just a new, thick stillness, unpredictable as morning coastal fog. A message from Willow Haven. Thomas watched the video this morning. He laughed a lot. I hold the seashell bracelet he wore when he was strong now, hanging quietly by the kitchen window. The sea breeze moves it, the chimes softly ringing. Not loud, not music. Just a sound enough to know someone passed through here, left something that doesn't easily fade. I don't feel victorious. Not like that. I just feel no longer invisible. If you've ever had a moment like this, made a stranger in your own story but stayed silent, chose to clarify the truth quietly, leave a comment. Even just got it is enough, so people like me know we're not alone. I thought it was over. Then the court summons arrived. My family, my mother and Madeline, filed a lawsuit to void the house's ownership, alleging undue influence on an elderly person, demanding a full review of the will. For the first time, I'll walk into a courtroom not summoned, but to be heard. And this time I won't walk in alone. Beaufort County Courthouse sits on a quiet street next to an old library and a bakery with cinnamon lingering in the air. I arrive early. Not from nerves, but because I've waited too long for this to be late. The sky is bright, absurdly blue, as if trying to soften the tension in my chest. I enter courtroom 3, carrying a slim charcoal briefcase, everything I have, legal documents, my father's handwritten letters, and the video I kept as a final keepsake. Today, it's no longer a keepsake. It's evidence. Madeline is already seated at the plaintiff's table. She's in a white pantsuit, lips tight, eyes forward, but not on me. My mother sits beside her, pearls at her neck, her soft armor against the truth. She glances at me, then away. Someone asked me later, "Ellie, were you scared?" No, I wasn't scared. I was sad. Sad that even now they think I'm here to take, not protect. The judge, a man in his 60s with a deep voice and cautious eyes, opens the session by skimming the complaint. Plaintiffs allege the defendant, Eleanor Anderson, exploited Thomas Anderson's diminished mental capacity to seize family property against his original intent. The plaintiff's lawyer stands, young, gel-slicked hair, confident voice. Today will prove Thomas Anderson, a respected father, was manipulated in a weakened state, unable to make critical decisions like transferring the family home. He speaks each word like he's repainting me with thick strokes of betrayal. Ellie not only exploited a legal loophole, but also family bonds. I don't react. I just look at the judge. When it's my turn, I stand slowly. My voice isn't loud but clear. Your Honor, I submit 3 pieces of evidence. First, a video recorded at Willow Haven 2 months ago. Second, a recording of a conversation between the plaintiff and my mother, Margaret Anderson. Third, text messages between them showing intent to exclude me from information about my father. The judge signals to play the video. The room dims, only the screen glowing. My father appears in the garden, wrapped in a brown knit blanket, holding a tea mug. His voice is slow, clear, steady, not trembling as they'd claimed. I want Ellie to have this house, he says. Not because she deserves more, but because she was the only one there after I fell. The one who didn't ask what I could give, only what I needed. No one speaks. Just the faint breeze through the video's mic and my heart beating steadily, heavily, but firmly. Next, the recording. Madeline's voice. If she keeps pushing to no, just say Dad's gone. It's simpler. We don't need her. She's weak. She doesn't belong here. A few heads in the gallery turn toward Madeline. She doesn't move. My mother sits rigid, hands clasped white. The judge removes his glasses, sets them down, taps his pen lightly on the file, then looks up. Based on the evidence, the court finds Thomas Anderson was fully lucid with legal capacity at the time of his statement and intent regarding the property. There's no indication the defendant coerced or manipulated her father. The messages and statements reflect a systematic effort to exclude the defendant from decisions about the inheritance. He pauses. The room is dead silent. The court dismisses the lawsuit. The house is legally owned by Eleanor Anderson. Case closed. I don't recall leaving the courtroom. Only stepping onto the stone steps, sunlight slanting through the courthouse roof, pooling at my feet like a quiet carpet. I take a deep breath. Not victory. Release. A reporter rushes up, mic ready. "Ms. Anderson, any message for your family?" I pause. Smile. I've said it all. But in words soft enough no one had to shout. And I walk away. Lighter but not naive. That night I return to the beach house. It's no longer evidence, not just memory. It's proof I wasn't erased. And then I start thinking about the next step. Could I even once invite them back? Not to fight, but to share one last thing. I'm not sure of the answer, but I know I'll be the one to speak first. I sat frozen before a blank card for over 2 hours. My finger lingered on the first line pen, yet to write a word. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew once those words were written, there'd be no turning back. It would be the first and maybe last time I spoke to those who chose to forget me. I thought of the trial. Of my father in the garden with birds tapping and his old gray-brown blanket. I remembered how he said, "Ellie, no resentment, only love that never faded." And I began to write. To Madeline, Mom, and anyone in the Anderson family who still cares about what was once called family. This time, if you still want to come, I invite you. No one will be turned away. No one will be shamed. No explanations needed. Just a simple meal, a few old photos rehung Dad's favorite dessert, and someone once forgotten still here, waiting to be called by her name. Sincerely, Ellie. I sealed the envelopes myself. No emails. No texts. I took each letter to the corner post office, standing in line among strangers, sending birthday gifts bills and daily minutiae. I was once forgotten in such small things. A week passed, no replies. On the 8th day, I saw my mother's car pull up slowly. She stepped out in a white coat pearls as always, but no heavy makeup this time. She walked slowly, saying nothing, her gaze brushing past me like a breeze. Madeline arrived hours later, not alone. Behind her were Uncle Ron, Aunt Carol, and the 2 nephews I'd taught to make paper kites from old magazines. Everyone carried a mix of unease and caution, like stepping into a place once theirs, but now uncertain whether to remove their shoes. I didn't greet them with a speech. I just smiled, opened the pale blue wooden door. Inside, the table was set. Not lavish lemon-roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, walnut apple salad, and Dad's favorite crispy orange cake. On the walls, old photos I'd carefully reprinted. Some had been cropped. I pasted them whole again, and my father he'd been brought earlier with a private nurse. He sat in his familiar armchair holding a cream-colored ceramic mug. When my mother entered, he only said, "Hello, Margaret." No wait, just a breath. The room was so quiet, I could hear the breeze through the wind chime, outside the one we made when I was 9 shells, still faintly etched with my shaky EA. No one apologized. No one said we were wrong. But as the meal began, eyes lingered longer. Hands poured water for the person beside them. A moment when my mother placed a slice of orange cake on Dad's plate without a word, but I saw her shoulders tremble. When I brought out the photo tray, someone picked up one me about 11 dancing on the sand in a red swimsuit. No one asked why it was never hung before. My father looked at me for a long time, then said as if only I could hear thank you for not closing the door. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I just squeezed his hand lightly. That was enough. That night, after everyone left, I walked the house. In the breeze, the wind chime rang softly, then fell silent. For the first time in 10 years, the house didn't feel cramped with memories. Just one more chapter. I know what I have to do. I never thought a photo could make me want to cry. Not because it was beautiful or overly moving, but because it was proof I was there. No longer cut from the frame. No longer pushed to the margins. No longer a faint shadow easily erased as if I never existed. After that dinner, a simple meal, no apologies but no hostility. Either my mother stood quietly moving to the living room. I thought she was avoiding eyes as she often did, but she returned holding Dad's old Canon digital camera, the simple kind he loved most. "We should take a picture," she said, her voice thin as thread, unwound from a spool. "For this last time." No one answered, but no one objected. People shifted slowly, awkwardly. Chairs scraped lightly, someone picked up a fallen napkin. Footsteps on the wood floor sounded dry, as if the house itself was nervous. I stood still, unsure what to do. For a moment I thought I'd step back. Let those who'd held center stage keep it. But Madeline turned. She didn't look long, just tilted her head and said softly, stand in the middle. No grand words, no sign of atonement, but no rejection either. I stepped to the room's center, my heart still as the sea after a storm. My father sat in front, a knit blanket draped lightly on his lap. A young nurse helped adjust his shirt collar. He looked at me, a smile thin as breath. "Ellie, you're right where you belong." I stood beside him, hand brushing the back of his chair. To my left, Madeline. To my right, Mom. Farther out, Aunt Carol, Uncle Ron, distant relatives I thought had forgotten me. But they were here. They came. My mother raised the camera, then paused. Her hand shook slightly. After a moment, Madeline stepped forward and said, "Let me." Mom handed it over, then stepped beside Dad. And when everyone was set, Madeline said, "Smile, not out of duty, just because we can." I don't know how many shots the camera took. I only remember the flash not blinding, but etching a final truth I was part of the photo. No need to ask permission, no one yielding space. I was part simply because I was there. When the photo was reviewed, someone chuckled softly. My father said this might be the last one I'm in with the whole family. I squeezed his shoulder but didn't reply, because in my heart I hoped it wasn't the last. But the first of something new, something imperfect, but real. That night after everyone left, I stepped onto the porch. The wind chime rang gently in the sea breeze. I sat on the swing Dad fixed when I was 8. The moon hung like an unanswered question. I knew things couldn't go back to how they were. But I also knew I didn't need that. I just needed to be present, seen. And today, that happened. I'm not sure what lies ahead, but I know one thing I must do. Because a photo, no matter how beautiful, is still static. Life, it moves on and must be chosen daily. Savannah and I started cleaning the next morning before the sun fully spilled onto the porch. The kitchen still held the scent of last night's toast and coffee, as if memories didn't want to leave. We didn't talk much, just shared rags, brooms, and a faded spray bottle. "Never thought I'd be wiping windows here with you," Savannah said, gazing at the garden. "But it's like the end of an indie film." I laughed. Not a radiant laugh, but one that rippled lightly in my heart, the laugh of someone who survived a long journey and realized they're still standing. The wind chime hung by the kitchen door. Old shell's faded green thread, my shaky EW from age 9 still there. I tightened a few knots not to make it prettier, but to keep it ringing a soft sound, a reminder that small things still matter. "Your dad would be proud," Savannah said softly behind me. I nodded. "He's always been here," I replied, even when they tried to make me think otherwise. That afternoon, I washed the wine glasses from last night. Dried each one, placed them neatly in the old wooden cabinet Dad built. My hand paused at the third drawer inside, still his brown leather notebook, yellowed paper heavy with time. His journal, now mine. I sat at the weathered wooden table, opened the first blank page. The pen glided smoothly. No flourish. No surging emotion. Just what needed to be written. I never left my family. They just chose not to see me. But I'm still here. Always here. I set the pen down. Lightly. Not an end, but a needed pause after a long song. I know days will come when memories return, like the tide, gentle or fierce. But this time I'm not afraid. Because I'm not standing alone on that shore. I have the truth. I have myself. I have Dad still reading in the living room lamplight, on his silver hair eyes, bright as when he taught me to read the wind. It may not be full happiness, but it's the closest to peace I've ever known. That night, Savannah and I sat on the porch. 2 wooden chairs, 2 lemonades, and a moon thin as mist. The breeze swept through the wind chime, ringing softly, then quiet. I leaned back, looking at a starless but open sky. "You staying here?" Savannah asked. I stayed silent. Not because I lacked an answer, but because I was learning not to need one right away. Maybe I'll stay. Maybe I'll leave. But this time if I go, I won't carry cuts. I'll carry wholeness. Before turning off the light, I walked through each room, greeting each memory: Dad's room, where he still breathes evenly. The living room, where the new family photo hangs. The kitchen, where the wind chime spins gently in the night breeze. I once thought I needed recognition to belong. Now I know I just need to not deny my own presence. When I wrote this journey, I didn't expect this. So many people like me have been quietly erased from a table, a photo, a memory. This story isn't just about a house or a reunion, it's about presence. That we have the right to exist fully in our own lives, whether others see us or not. I've learned that forgiveness isn't instant absolution. It's choosing not to let hurt turn you into someone you don't want to be. That some families aren't perfect, but can still find each other if one person is patient enough to keep the door open. If you've been forgotten unnamed, share your story below. Don't let silence keep winning. If this story touched something in you, follow the channel to join me on the next journeys, because I believe you're still here. And so am I.